Did that save your life?
Absolutely.
Hi, welcome back to Let Me Ask You Something, the weekly podcast where I, MD Pittman, talk to everyday, ordinary people about something extraordinary that's happened in their lives. Now, this week I talked to my friend Valorey. She is a domestic violence survivor, and she has an incredible weight loss journey story to tell. So, without much further ado, here's My Pal Val.
Welcome to I think this is going to be episode 12 of the Let Me Ask You Something podcast. Today we have my friend Valorey, my pal Val. We met through social media, through TikTok.
Yes.
And and she's gotten so busy, she had to pull back on a lot of her social media. So it's been a while since I've seen my pal Val. So how are you doing, Valorey?
Doing fantastic.
Right.
It has been a wild ride. 2020 really, there was a lot of sacrifices that had to be made last year, but it has been absolutely fruitful.
Well, that's good to hear on that. But we're actually going to be transitioning into a little bit more of a serious topic.
Mhm.
So let me ask you something, Valorey.
Yes.
What was, when did you find out, or let me rephrase that. That's a bad way of saying it. So let me ask you something, Valorey. When did you realize or know that you had to get out of a toxic relationship?
I knew probably, well, hindsight's always 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
I started picking up on the red flags probably within year 2, year 3. We had just had our daughter, and something about giving birth to her triggered something
Mm-hmm.
in him, and his behavior, his demeanor changed. And he seemed to go in cycles. And I thought maybe, well, the newness is a lot of stress. I wasn't able to work. He was having to carry the brunt of a lot of it. I had 2 small boys from my first marriage, so I gave in to a lot of excuses.
Yeah.
And then that kind of propelled into a much bigger problem years down the road. The abuse was always towards me a lot. Mostly it was mental, emotional, financial.
Mm-hmm.
Towards the end, it started getting physical, but at the very end, and I had already started to plan to leave. I had a date set. I was done. I was over it. I was empowered, and I was just going with the motions. I was doing a technique called gray rocking to kind of keep his attitude at bay, so that I could just get through day to
Mm-hmm.
day. Well, on January the 20th of 2017, we were watching the inauguration like we do every 4 years, and something triggered him then. And it wasn't, I couldn't gray rock him. And that's when the abuse turned to physical violence against one of my boys. And that's when Mama Bear came out. All these years, I had not been able to stand up for myself or fight for myself. But when it came when it came towards my kids,
Oh, yeah.
something came over me that I had no idea I had in me. But I was able to get the situation under control, call the police, have him arrested. And
Mm-hmm.
with my 3 kids and no job, we left.
Yeah.
And we didn't turn back.
Now, I think everybody could get that we are talking about domestic violence. I did not introduce the specific topic, but just to go over some of the statistics here. On average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the U.S. That means that's basically during 1 year, 10 million people are abused by an intimate partner.
Yes.
1 in 4 women and 1 in women experience severe intimate partner physical violence.
Yes.
Um, was that with you? I mean, did you was it pretty severe, or was it less than severe, even though all physical violence is inexcusable?
Well, this is all violence, regardless if it involves physical abuse or not. Is
Well, yeah, yes.
Yeah, like there's no argument or debate there with anyone. Physical violence or mental, emotional,
Yeah.
They all have deep, long, lasting impact. It took me years to recover. It took a lot of work. It took I'll just say that it took a lot of work to get over a lot of things. Even to this day, I still kind of get that little trigger buzz, like, and then I'm like, okay, take a deep breath. Like, you got this. It's all right. But yeah, the physical was towards the end. It was in the very latter end. Although he didn't, like, the physical violence isn't always punching or slapping. For my particular experience, he had this beer belly, and he would use it to push me up against the wall and kind of pin me there and keep me from going anywhere. And so that still falls under physical abuse.
Yeah, because he touches you. I mean,
yeah.
So now this experience, this horrific experience led you on another journey.
Yes.
Now, before we get to that journey, and I won't bury this lead, it was a weight loss journey, a significant weight loss journey. Did you gain weight because of this, or how? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first met him back in the mid 2000s, I think I probably weighed, I don't know, maybe 180, 190, but I'm not real tall, but I'm 5'8". But I have an athletic build. And so, I mean, I, of course, text, if you want to look at excuse me, if you go by, the American BMI charts, of course, I was a little overweight, but I wasn't like morbidly obese.
Yeah.
But I did become that. When I left him, I had ballooned up over 300 pounds. I'm not sure what my largest or my heaviest was, but I do, because I had lost a little bit prior to starting the weight loss journey.
Okay. So, what triggered you to do that journey? Was it some sort of health scare, or what was that?
Well, I had been experiencing, I was towards the end of the relationship, I had started having like syncopal episodes where stress would kind of like fight or flight, and my body wouldn't fight. It was like, flight, you're going to faint. Yeah. And so I was going through those kind of motions, and then I got an official diagnosis of postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, with POTS for short. It's becoming more well known now. It's actually one of the lingering symptoms for a lot of COVID people who had COVID. Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of that trending in some of the POTS support groups that I'm in. But yeah, basically it's kind of a weird diagnosis, because it's not exactly neurological and it's not exactly cardiac, but they kind of intermingle. So basically what happens is I stand up. So postural, I'm standing up, and my blood pressure drops. And my heart has to overcompensate because all the blood is like pooling in my legs. And so my heart overcompensates to get blood back up to my brain. Okay. This is part of the fight or flight mechanism. And so they put me on this tilt table. If you've ever had a tilt table test, anybody who's listening, then they're very stressful, because you kind of look like Hannibal Lecter. You're strapped to this table. They lean you up. You have all these electrodes and blood pressure monitors, and you've got an IV hooked up just to case.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so it was quite the experience. So I made it to about 15 minutes. I was panicking the whole time before it was boom, lights out. Then they lay you flat and you come to, and they're like, okay, well, your blood pressure dropped to 70 over, or hang on, I'm trying to remember. I think it was like 70 over 30.
Oh, wow.
And my heart rate was like 155 at the max. And then there's like,
you're running a marathon.
yeah. So basically, when I'm standing up, I'm in fat burning zone. Like, you know, it takes very little from like, so it's kind of a running joke about being athletic. Right.
So you do this test. So what happens after you get this test?
Okay. So I get the test, and then the doctor gives me, you know, like, there's not a whole lot they can do for this particular disorder, depending on where exactly you kind of fall into this umbrella, because the umbrella diagnosis is dysautonomia. So it's a dysfunction of the autonomic system, basically anything that you can't control. You can't control your blood pressure, you can't control your pulse, you can't control your breathing rate, you know, different things like that. So that's what the autonomic system controls, and it's a dysfunction of that. And so I did one of the things that they had me doing was like making sure I'm drinking a lot of fluids, keeping my blood volume up. Dehydration, summer, it's hot, especially here in the South. Heat causes vasodilation. Cool causes vasoconstriction. So in the cooler months, I thrive very well. In the summer months, it doesn't take much because, you know, so dilation and, you know, blood pressure drops. It doesn't take much. So I have to be very cautious, wear cool clothing, drink a lot of fluids. But I was still struggling. Even after I left him, I had to figure out something. I wanted to get better. I wanted to cure it. And I started off, I tend to lean towards homeopathic, all natural stuff. I'm not one for chemicals. I'm not one for, you know, a lot of unnatural things. And so I started seeing a chiropractor, which I've been seeing chiropractors since I was a kid, but I hadn't had one in years. And so
I fully recommend a chiropractor. I see one too.
That's amazing. I need one right now. But so I started seeing her. I told her about my condition. She was a little bit familiar with it, but she wanted to help me. She did notate that I had a reverse curvature of my neck, which may have been causing some issues with the nerves related to the autonomic system, the vagal nerve in particular. So we're getting a little bit scientific here. I'm no doctor. I'm not diagnosing anybody. This is just my experience. But one of the things that we did was we went through a chiropractic plan. So we had this care plan in place. I was going 3 days a week. And about, I want to say it was probably about 7 or 8 months into the care, she said, all right, listen, we got to get the weight off. What are we doing? You know, what are we doing? And because
but what year is this? What, like how far past you leaving your husband?
I left him in January of 17. I started seeing her, the chiropractor, in, I want to say like August or September of 2017.
Okay. So we're talking about what, 6, 7, 9 months?
Yeah, about.
Okay.
Yeah. So about that time frame. So I started seeing her, and then January of 2018 rolled around, and she said, okay, we got to get the weight off. Your adjustments aren't sticking. I think if we get the weight off, we'll start to see some progress. She said, I've got this program that I do twice a year. It starts at the end of the month, and I want you to be a part of it. And I was like, okay, what is it? She's like, it's a program. It's called Sleek in 6. So it's a 6-week challenge, and there was prizes. So, you know, there's a little bit of incentive there. Right. So I was like, what the heck? So I've tried all these other diets. Nothing seemed to work or stick. I'd lose a little weight, plateau out. You know, I'd go work out for hours, no results. I'm just coming home in pain, basically.
So and basically, it's what you got to lose. I mean, it's
What do I have to lose? I'm willing to try it out. What you got for me?
And what you did lose was a lot of weight.
I did. So end of January rolls around. I go to her event, and my love language is science and math. Like, give it to me. And, she's a doctor, of course. And so she was explaining the ins and outs of the ketogenic diet and how it works scientifically, like breaking it down all the way down to, the molecular structures and your cells and the mitochondria and how, what's going on inside your body when you're going through these different phases. And I got obsessed with learning keto in and out. And she taught a very healthy version of it, very green, so lots of veggies, lots of baked meats, kind of steering away from the
process.
Well, yeah, there's a common misconception that it's like all fat, but that's not true. It's not all fat. Some people say, oh, you drink bacon grease for breakfast. And it's like, no, it's not that. It's not that at all. There's a method to the madness.
Yeah.
But so I did the program, and 6 weeks later, I was in first place out of a group of about 30 other women.
Because you wanted those prizes.
It wasn't even that. Like it wasn't much of a, it wasn't like a big deal, but it was a big deal, and so.
You're a little competitive. I know you. You're a little competitive.
Very, very competitive. But yeah, so 6 weeks later, I was down 35 pounds and 20 something inches. Like, I went in and weighed every Friday afternoon after work, and weighed in, and they measured me, and we kept it all. I think I still have my binder here somewhere. My dog might start barking.
Yeah. And just to interrupt slightly, just to show you how competitive Valorey is. When she was on TikTok, we had this race to 1K to 1,000 followers. Yeah. She beat me literally by like 15 minutes. and our bet was I was supposed to have a pink beard and she would have pink hair or whatever. I ended up doing purple for another friend of mine whose son died early, and it was for in honor of him. So I did a purple beard, and oh man, it was a lot more purple than I thought it would be. A lot purple. And then it faded to pink. So I had a purple beard and a pink beard. I'll see if I can find the TikTok video I did with that, and try to post some of that on my website. So we'll get links in the show notes on that. But I digress.
Right.
All right. So you are first place out of 30 women.
Yes. So I'd lost like 35 pounds and 20 something inches. I have it documented somewhere. I can probably get that for you. But yeah, so I did that, and I wasn't done. I felt amazing.
Yeah.
I had so much focus after being like, just years of brain fog. Can't remember, that CRS, can't remember.
Yeah.
Keep it G-rated for the.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was peak performance. I hadn't felt like that since I was probably 17 years old. And I kept going, and I did not stop, and I did not have.
Now, how many cycles of this did you? Is it like with our friend Hula? He does the intermittent fasting for 40 days, and then he stops, and then he's done a couple. Like, I think he's on his fifth. I think he just did his fifth intermittent fast. Mm-hmm. But is it like that where you do a cycle, or is it just constant?
For me, it was constant, but there are different variations, things that you can add. I did include intermittent fasting. I did like a 16-8 where you have an 8-hour window to eat, and then which is normally like 2 meals and a snack, and then 16 hours of fasting. Mm-hmm. I would increase that kind of if I saw that I was kind of fluctuating and I wasn't really losing anything on the scale, I would tweak it a little bit to where maybe I go to 18-6, have a 6-hour window, mm-hmm. and 18 hours of fasting. Yeah. Right. I've even done a 23-1. Like, I had an hour window and then 23.
Really?
But that was more monitored.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did that for a few days. I've done like egg fast where you eat nothing but boiled eggs for 3 days.
Anything that works, right?
But that's just to kind of trigger the metabolism and get things
Yeah.
going and seeing some results on the scale. But the thing about keto is you don't have to do that. I noticed like if I just, and I became a creature of habit, and I was never a creature of habit before. I was like spontaneous and go with the flow, and then all of a sudden I'm like rules and time schedules and
Get that structure in.
Structure and systems and processes and and so that's just kind of
So
changed me.
let everybody know how much weight you've lost.
To date, I have lost 110 pounds.
And is that your goal? Because you look great.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm not in a hurry.
Yeah. You ain't going anywhere. But how does that weight loss though feel now? I mean, obviously you have a physical noticeable difference.
Yeah.
But what about mentally and internally? How did that, a lot of people, when they have that much weight on them, did that save your life?
Absolutely. Absolutely, hands down. I think I had gotten up to a size 26 in women's pants. And I was miserable. I couldn't find clothes that fit. I couldn't find clothes that were comfortable, especially when it came to business clothes. I wasn't comfortable in my car or anybody else's car. I couldn't sit on hard seats for long periods of time. It completely morphed me into a completely different person. And I still to this day struggle with clothes shopping. I don't get out a lot because I work so much, and so a lot of the shopping that I do is solely online. And I'll say, what? I need to get some pants. I'm getting ready to go on a trip because I do a lot of traveling now. And I'll be looking on my phone trying to find some pants. And I'm like, I don't know what size I'll wear. Still to this day, I have no idea. And I still find myself buying 22s and 20s and, and I get them. Yeah. I get them delivered and I put them on and it's like, and I'm just like,
you fit 3 of you in there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me because I spend so much time working and I've created all of those healthy habits. I order the same foods. I cook the same foods. I kind of I'm very monotonous these days, but it's worked for me because I guess it's kind of my control. I went years without control, but I've developed healthy controls.
Now, I know we didn't, before we hit record, we didn't really talk about this, but I want to get your thoughts on this because a lot of people might hear this about losing weight. This is not anything where we're stressing that it's a requirement because of, you are who you are. Body positivity is very important. Can you address that part as far as why you had to do that to lose the weight as opposed to being happy with who you are? Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Okay. So the weight for me was more, this is for your health. You've got to do something about it. But the perks on the other side of that is you look great, you feel great, you're more attractive, especially as a newly, single mom on the, well, I still haven't got on the dating train yet, but I'm too busy. I don't care. I'm happy with myself. I'm happy to be by myself. Yeah. But that is so key because if you're not happy with yourself, you're not going to be happy with anyone else. And if you put that pressure on them to make you happy, you are always going to be unhappy. Yeah. And so I've kind of gone through this whole self-discovery of, it's okay. I haven't hit my goal weight yet. I still have another 30, 45, whatever pounds to go before I hit that,
personal goal for you, and that is your goal. But if someone is listening to this or watching this, if they are a bigger person and they're happy with who they are and their health is fine, be you.
Absolutely, be you. As long as you feel good and your doctors are You're healthy. There's nothing wrong. It's not holding
Yeah.
you back from anything. Just do what's best for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if you're a little bit bigger, awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, so where do we go from here? Where do we go in the future? You said your personal goal for your weight loss is another 30 or so pounds.
Yeah.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. But I mean, are you?
I'm not in a rush to get it. I know I will hit it. I keep a very positive mindset. I know I will get there. I'm just not in a rush to get there.
Yeah.
It could be 2 months from now. It could be 6 months or even a year from now. I got to a point to where when I walk past the mirror, I'm like, who's that girl?
Yeah.
When I put on pants that are a size that I haven't wore since high school. I'm smaller now than I was when I gave birth to my first son.
Yeah.
It's an incredible feeling, and I'm like, what I wouldn't give, like if I think about 4 or 5 years ago when I was over 300 pounds, I was probably closer to like 330, 340. I would give anything to be at this weight. And so you have to express gratitude for what you have now if you want more in the future, because God's not going to give it to you. The universe is not going to give it to you unless you express gratitude for the moment that you're in. I used to be a very negative mindset person, and all that just kind of changed and happened overnight. I didn't force any of it, and that's a big thing, because as a competitive person, I forced a lot.
Yeah. Now, getting back to the domestic violence, how, I guess, what are you doing anything to help people? Are you doing anything? Talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so last December, I was approached to join a nonprofit as a board member. And so now I sit on the board for a nonprofit domestic violence shelter for women. We're in 4 counties here in South Alabama. Our team, they do amazing work. I'm a new board member. I'm still learning the ropes. I sit on the finance committee because, I'm a numbers nerd.
Yes, you are.
I love my numbers. But it's been absolutely incredible to help them fundraise, to help them, reach their goals. And it aligns so much with, me and my goals. One of the things that I wanted so badly when I was in my marriage was I wanted to own a home. He had no plans to ever own a home. He thought credit was dumb. He thought home ownership was dumb. He just wanted to rent the rest of his life. And, that, of course, caused a lot of issues between us. But when I left him, in 15 months, this is what I did. And this is probably going to shock some people, because every time I tell this story, they're like, wait, you did what? Can you show me how you did that? Can you teach me? And I've been able to help some of my close friends. I haven't really stretched out beyond my inner circle.
Yeah,
but
we might have to do another podcast on this.
We might have to.
All right. So what's the secret?
So I pulled my credit reports.
Yeah.
And I raised my credit score over 200 points. And I closed on my first home in 15 months.
All in 15 months.
All in 15 months.
Wow.
From January of 17 to April of 2018. That's when I closed on my home.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
200 points?
Over 200 points.
Guys, if you don't know what that means, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's that financial abuse. That's that recovery from everything. A lot of things were in my name. I was the only one with credit that could get things, and then he on it. Pretty constitutional. Still doing this.
Yeah. All right. Well, my pal Valorey, I think we are at an end of our time here. I try to keep this between 35, 40 minutes or so, and I think we're approaching that 35-minute mark.
Sure.
But tell me a little bit about, or actually, just, do you have anything else you want to say? Just tell me a little bit about what your advice is to somebody who was in your situation, either who might have not recognize the signs of domestic violence, who might not be in the best of health because of other stresses in their lives.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, for me, the stress is what caused my health problems. And he was the absolute core cause for all the effects that were going on internally and externally in my body. My advice, it might sound cliche, but get out. There are so many resources available. I have a lot of resources. I get, tagged in Facebook posts all the time about, where to, this person needs help. Where can I send them? And our team at the shelter has a lot of resources, statewide, not just in Alabama, but in other states as well. And we can help do what we can. But just, if that person has put you into a position, that person does not truly love you, no matter what they say. And they may have all the intentions, all the good intentions in the world, because they do this thing that's called love bombing. Once they know that they've got you to a breaking point, and that you're ready to walk, they'll start this love bomb cycle. Oh, let's, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and
let's do that,
pepper you with love and affection and presence or whatever.
They use your triggers against you.
Yeah.
And that's what I experienced. I experienced that cycle over and over and over again until I finally got to the point to where this cycle's never going to change. I have to do something, because nothing changes unless you change.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound cliche, but there's a reason it sounds cliche, because
it's the
truth in that. So if you are finding yourself in this position, and I can speak, I guess, from an educational standpoint, I know and learned about it. I can't speak from what your standpoint is, but it is, the signs are there. Actions speak louder than words. Another cliche, but very much true.
So true.
But I mean, if you recognize the sign, I mean, you got to look out for number one.
Yes.
And you are number one.
That's
as
right.
well as your kids are number one.
If you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of anybody else. And I got to the point to where I almost could not take care of my kids.
And how are your kids today?
Fantastic. I mean, the oldest one went through Marine Corps boot camp. He's been in for a couple years. He's getting out and doing his thing. My middle son is getting ready to graduate high school. I just bought him his first used truck, little pickup now. My daughter, she's crazy as all get out. She's about to be 13. She's my baby, and she's a genius. She's way too smart for me these days. But yeah, she's on the gifted program. She's a straight A student. All the kids are doing great. They're thriving. They didn't thrive before. They are thriving now.
Because you got out of that toxic relationship.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, we will leave it at that. My pal Val, Valorey, I appreciate the time, and we will definitely have you on again so you can tell the secrets of raising your credit score over 200 points in 15 months.
Teach people how to become first-time home buyers.
Yes. All right. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And it should end here soon. Did it? Nope. Stop there.